we're joined today by Andrew Holler. We're so excited of FIG, which hopefully you all know stands for Food is Good. And we're going to dive in to the FIG app, explain to you what it is, how best to use it, how you can tailor it to your very specific food intolerances and needs. And this will be recorded, so if you have to leave early or if you come in late, of course you won't be here to hear this. If you come in late, you will be able to watch it after the fact. So we're going to jump in. As we mentioned, I'm sure you all know FIG is a scanner app that can help with low FODMAP intolerances, as well as many other kinds of food issues. And we're here with Andrew, who's one of the founders. And, you know, I first wanted to start, Andrew, with you introducing yourself and telling us about your story, how it was that the idea for FIG even came up for you.
Yeah, certainly. First off, thank you everybody for joining. And thank you, Dede and Robin, for having me. I saw, Emma, you said it was -50 in Maine. It's 70 degrees in Houston, Texas. So I can't even fathom what a -50 would be like. My heart goes out to you. So again, thank you all so much for coming and for having us on my favorite day. Let me tell you a bit about my background. I've never had any sort of health issues whatsoever until 2014. Frankly, I don't think I understood just how good I had it. But I ended up going on a retreat to Cancun, Mexico with my company at that time, and had a great weekend, but came back home to New York and I started having issues. At first, I was waking up in the middle of the night and I was itching all over my legs. I started having just terrible brain fog and fatigue. And within a few weeks, started having really bad GI symptoms, which I'll spare you the details, but I imagine I'm in very good company here. If you're on this webinar. And those symptoms just absolutely ruined my life. I became just a bit of a shell of my former self. I ended up seeing my primary care doctor at the time, who said, well, you know, Andrew, itching can often just be in your head. And that was kind of my foray to the medical system. But from 2014 to 2017, I ended up seeing about 20 doctors at all of the best New York hospitals, trying to figure out what in the heck had happened to me and what was going on. And they did every test you could imagine. They did PET CT scans, colonoscopies, endoscopies. I probably should have had a frequent flyer membership card at Quest Diagnostics because I went so many times for blood work. And all the doctors said the same thing. You know, we believe you that you're having these issues. We just don't know what's going on with you because all the tests are normal. The other thing that was consistent across all the doctors, unfortunately, is that none of them ever mentioned food to me, which now that I know what I know about the power of food, it seems so wrong and irresponsible, but this is where we are. It was in 2017 that I was reading a blog post online from a doctor in Chicago who's an alternative medicine doctor. And he was talking about the impact of food on symptoms and talking about IBS and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I was so desperate for relief that I ended up flying out to see him. And again, he was the first one that really put in my head this thought that food could very much be tied to your symptoms. I ended up starting a low FODMAP diet that was modified a bit for SIBO. And within a few weeks, 90% of my GI symptoms had totally cleared up. And it made me a believer out of the power of food. But also introduced me to my second challenge, which was, okay, great. You figured out how to stop your GI symptoms. How do you go shop at the grocery store whenever there are hundreds of ingredients that you have to either limit or avoid? And that was a bit of the aha moment, I think, for FIG. My husband and I, we were looking for coconut milk that didn't have any preservatives in it, carrageenan or xanthan gum. And we went to 6 different grocery stores trying to find coconut milk that would work for me. Went home empty-handed, said there's just got to be a better way to find things that work for your needs. And that was the I guess the inspiration that hit me over the head, that something like FIG needed to exist for the people in the world that desperately needed it.
So the low FODMAP aspect was there from the beginning, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about the breadth of what FIG covers, because we know that about, I think statistically, it's about 36 or 37% of us with IBS have issues digestive issues in addition to IBS. So, there's people that we hear from every day who also have histamine issues, or they're diabetic, or they have to be low sodium, or what have you. So can you talk a little bit about what FIG can help you with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, while I was figuring out what was going on with me, and while I started finding my relief through food, I started realizing that I am not alone by any means. And you can look here in this webinar to see there are lots of us who struggle with a myriad of dietary restrictions and sensitivities. A lot of us have them figured out. A lot of us don't know the specific ones that we need to avoid, but we have an inkling that food might be behind it. But it was this notion that there are people with gluten sensitivities, there are people with histamine issues, food allergies, and not just top 8 or top 9 food allergies now, but people with nightshade issues or cinnamon sensitivities. And while there were solutions at the time, for example, gluten-free apps to help you find gluten-free food, or vegan apps to help you find vegan food, what was really insufficient was, as you mentioned, Day, a lot of people and a lot of families represent more than just one dietary need. They might be low FODMAP, but they might also be vegan. They might be low FODMAP, but they might also have a peanut allergy or a cinnamon sensitivity, or a daughter who is paleo. And so we knew from the beginning that we needed to design and build FIG in a way where it could understand all of your dietary needs, not just one of them, because if we can only help you with one, that's only part of the battle. I like to say that FIG is a chronic work in progress, and you're going to hear that multiple times throughout today's presentation. But we are still working to add more and more dietary needs to the app. Right now, what it can help you with are ingredient-based diets. So diets where you would need to look at the ingredient label or the allergen statement on a product. So think about diets like low FODMAP, low histamine, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. We're putting diets on for other medical conditions, low iodine diet for thyroid cancer treatment, emulsifier-free diets for folks with cavernous malformations, alpha-gal, which is an allergy to mammalian meat like beef or pork. It's a really terrible allergy that affects so many people, and there are no solutions. But the thing that's perhaps most exciting about FIG, it works with any ingredient whatsoever. So if your need happens to be that you have to avoid citric acid, you're not alone, by the way. There's a lot of people who have that issue, but FIG will help you find foods without citric acid or foods without red 40.
So one thing we do want to mention, and of course we talk about this all the time at FODMAP every day, and I know you do too, but I think sometimes it gets lost in the messaging. Both of our companies want everyone to be as healthy as they can be, and that means no self-diagnosis. So, if you think you have a cinnamon sensitivity, or if you have been actually diagnosed with a cinnamon sensitivity, those are two different things. And FIG is here to help you with what you have been diagnosed with. We don't want, because over restriction is a big deal in the dietary and gastro world. Over restriction can lead to disordered eating. It's not healthy for you physically. It's not healthy for you emotionally. So, we're here to show you how this tool can help you, but it needs to be used in the appropriate way. And so it's going to come after you've been accurately diagnosed with whatever it is that are your particular symptoms. So Robin has a poll that we're going to put up, and this is going to ask you about your experience with low FODMAP in particular. We'd love to get a sense of where all of you are. So you can just, do you guys see it up on the screen? Maybe you've just heard about the diet, you don't know what to do yet, so you haven't started yet. Maybe you're in the elimination phase. Maybe you're done with the elimination phase. You're trying to broaden your diet. So just start. There we go. Oh, wow, lots of people. There we go. Okay, so meanwhile, we will circle back to the polls. So this is great. So the point is that FIG has a way to really help you with a myriad of issues, the ones that you have been diagnosed with, preferably accurately, which means working with medical professionals. We don't want anyone self-diagnosing, and registered dietitians. I mean, they're the unsung heroes. If you're spinning your wheels, if you're like, well, I thought I was gluten-free, but every now and then I can eat a slice of pizza and nothing happens, so I don't really understand what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of confusion around food sensitivities, and registered dietitians are the ones, not your gastroenterologists, but the registered dietitians are the ones that really can help you untangle that ball of yarn. So it looks here like most people are through the elimination phase. That's awesome. So glad people are out there doing a lot of hard work. And a big percentage are avoiding ingredients beyond FODMAPs. So FIG is tailor-made for you. So let's talk about actually setting up your FIG. Or actually, first let's talk about how FIG works in terms of what's free, what's not, because there are two aspects to it, one that is free to the user, one that's not. And then we'll talk about how you actually set it up for your own personal needs.
That sounds good. And I want to echo what you're saying, Dede. One of the most requested features that we actually have on FIG is people asking, help me figure out what my dietary triggers are. So I hear you, and I know how difficult that is because I've been there and our team has been there, but it is a very difficult challenge. And so I just want to echo what Dede says. Dietitians are your best resource. An elimination diet through a dietitian is your best resource. And I wish this country put more of an emphasis on reimbursing dietitians because we've known for 2,000 years, all disease begins in the gut. Hippocrates said it a long time ago. We just need to return to it. But yeah, quickly on FIG, I'll say two things about FIG. One is our team is a team of 7 people full-time now, and the majority of the team have dietary restrictions ourselves. So I have my own issues, which I walked y'all through. Tyler, who you might have seen on TikTok, has a myriad of issues. He has a corn intolerance, a gluten intolerance. Citric acid is his big ingredient that he has to avoid. Bex on our team actually runs a blog called cornallergygirl.com. Bex unfortunately lives with a corn allergy, which is perhaps one of the worst allergies you could have. Brian has histamine intolerance with MCAS. John is lactose intolerant. And so what I want to really stress is that our team lives with these issues and we know how important they are. And that's why we're working as hard as we can to try to create a tool that's helpful for people who also live with these issues. But that then gets us to why we had to introduce a paid portion of the app. Believe me, I wanted to keep this app fully free. But the reality is it just costs money to run and build technology, something that a lot of people don't realize because so many phone apps are free. What FIG does is actually quite intricate. We're dealing with hundreds of thousands of food products, hundreds of diets and ingredients that have very specific needs to get it right. So it actually costs about $100,000 a month just to run FIG, which is why we introduced FIG Plus. So to get to your question, Dede, the free version of FIG is actually pretty powerful by itself. You can come onto the app. You can tell FIG all of your dietary needs. If you're low FODMAP, if you specifically just react to lactose and fructans, if you're gluten-free, what level of gluten-free you are, any other needs. And it's going to show you a list of all the ingredients that likely work for your dietary needs, the ones that don't, and the ones that may or may not work. And you can read a note from our dietitians to understand why those ingredients may or may not work. You can also search an unlimited amount for products on the FIG app. So if you know that you're going to Kroger for the weekend and you're trying to find a snack that fits all those needs, you can search away on the app, 100% free, unlimited searches. You can also create shopping lists on the app based on the products that you find. So our goal with that free component was to really make food as accessible for everyone, even if you can't afford FIG Plus. You can also use the scanner feature of FIG, which is where you scan a barcode to understand if a product likely works or not. And you can do that 5 times each month. But after that 5th scan, we do ask that you consider starting a free trial of FIG Plus. FIG Plus is roughly $40 a year, which I think comes out to $3 and something per month. But that's what helps us to actually financially support the app so that we can keep improving it and keep it reliable, which is such a tricky problem. Fig
So
plus, oh, sorry, Dede.
I just wanted to interject. So it's interesting, right? We did the poll and we asked how many of you have used a scanner app, and 38% said yes, but 62% said no. So, for those of you who are not familiar with scanner apps, what Andrew was just explaining here, the tech and the research behind what they bring to you in both the free and the paid versions, it's incredibly thoroughly researched, and the user interface is really easy to use, and all of that takes time and effort. And so if you've never used a scanner app, this is an awesome app to begin with. The other thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned that you can scan a barcode and that it will tell you what might likely be a problem. So I just want to hone in on that language for a moment, because in the poll at the very end, the last question, we asked people, are you confident using the Monash University and FODMAP friendly apps? And 15% of you have said you don't use either of those apps. So, let's just talk a little bit about where the data is coming from, right? So when you determine whether something contains a high FODMAP ingredient or not, talk a little bit about where that information is coming from and how people can feel assured that the information is correct.
Yep. So we've worked with a team of probably 15 dietitians at this point for all the different diets and ingredients that we offer on Fig. And they've gone through, I'll say explicitly, painstakingly reviewing every single ingredient that's on Fig. And it's at the level where we are differentiating between cherry versus cherry juice versus cherry juice concentrate versus artificial cherry flavor. So Fig's algorithms are that precise such that we're reading an ingredient label as well as we possibly can. Of course, those dietitians are Monash trained, and so they understand the low FODMAP diet as well as anyone. But that's where the data is coming from. I do want to just hone in on the word likely again, because there's two important things there. And this will make more sense as we start to demo the app and show what it can do. Whenever I first started the low FODMAP diet, I remember walking into the grocery store, and I mean, it really felt like the store was just pitted against me, because I walked down an aisle and I picked up 10 products and I had to put 10 products back down because every single one of them ended up having something I couldn't eat in it. And at that point, it was overwhelming because I didn't even know the ingredients that I couldn't eat. It's a massive list. You go open up the Monash app and there's hundreds and hundreds of ingredients. So the real goal with the Fig app is to point you very quickly in the right direction of products that likely work for your needs. What you're then going to want to do is confirm that those ingredients actually do work, and check with the Monash app to make sure if there's any vague ingredients that are either low or high FODMAP based on serving size, that those are actually going to be compliant with the low FODMAP diet.
Right. And thank you for tying it back into that. So for the 15% of you who have said that you don't use the Monash or FODMAP friendly app, just understand that researchers from both Monash and FODMAP friendly were the developers of the diet. And they are the only two entities right now that are doing the lab testing and of both raw products like an apple or a head of lettuce, as well as products like branded pasta sauces and things like that, and publishing the results. So everyone in the industry, in the FODMAP world, looks to Monash and FODMAP friendly as primary resources. So even when you're coming to FODMAP every day, I mean, we are Monash trained as well, we're FODMAP friendly accredited, but if you have questions, you go to those apps. So for those 15% of you, get the apps. But let's maybe go to you demoing the app. I mean, I think people want to see how this actually works for them. And so I think, just take us through it. Somebody's brand new. What are they going to do? What are they going to see? How does it work?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to start broadcasting from my phone. Let me know if everyone can see this popping up here.
I can.
All right, perfect. And I will flip to the Fig app. And the first thing that you're going to see in the Fig app see if I can minimize this zoom. That is me in the bottom left corner. I promise I don't come in the Fig app.
We need you in our pocket.
No, you don't want that. I drive Ben, my husband, crazy. I'm not sure if I'm going to figure out how to minimize this. Oh, there we
There we
go.
go.
Awesome. Okay, so first thing I just want to say one more time is that the Fig app is a very powerful tool, but it is a work in progress. So if you come to the Fig app expecting perfection, you're coming with the wrong mindset. We're working 16-hour days trying to make it better, but it's always going to be a work in progress. So when you come to Fig, the first thing you do is you create your Fig, which is basically telling the app how it is that you yourself personally eat. And there are 4 pages of profile creation. The first one are diets that you follow. The second are any top roughly 14 allergens that you have to avoid. The third are other common avoidances that you need to avoid. And then the fourth is that final page where you can actually go through and choose any individual ingredient and modify it based on your dietary needs. So I'll scroll down this first page and give you a bit of a sense of what's on here right now. Alpha-gal is, again, that mammalian meat allergy. So folks who have to avoid beef and pork. One thing you're going to notice about Fig that's just in the DNA of the company, everything we try to make as personalizable as possible. So if you have alpha-gal, there's actually multiple levels of severity of what you need to avoid. And you can actually go in here and you can choose those levels. And again, if you're not sure about something, you can always just tap that little eye on the right-hand side, and it's going to give you an information point about each of those options that are on the screen. So alpha-gal's here, dairy-free, egg-free, emulsifier-free, eosinophilic esophagitis, fructose-free. Now, you might recognize fructose is a FODMAP. There are a lot of folks out there who have never heard of FODMAPs, but they have fructose malabsorption or fructose intolerance. And so this is an option more explicitly for them, which something I'll say for folks who have used Fig already. As a general rule of thumb, when you're setting up your Fig profile, you don't want to plug in all of the possible options. If you are low FODMAP, and that's why you came here and you're also gluten-free, make sure you plug those in, but you don't also need to plug in lactose-free and fructose-free. Those are already going to be handled by your telling Fig that you're low FODMAP. So here we get down to the low FODMAP option. If you click onto that, you can basically see that if you're new to the low FODMAP elimination diet, you can select all 6 of the FODMAP options below. Otherwise, select your specific triggers. There's a little bit of information about each of these. It tells a bit about what fructans are. So for this demonstration, I think I'll just keep it on a straight low FODMAP diet elimination stage.
And again, I just want to say, so, and all of the information, this is all provided by Monash trained dietitians. Anything that's medically related is from a medical professional.
That's right. And we're constantly working with our dietitians to try to update this because what you're going to find later on, there were just thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of ingredients and synonyms for ingredients. And that's why each day we get it 1% better, but it's just it's a work in progress. Low histamine, low iodine, no beef, no pork, no poultry, paleo, pescatarian, pregnancy, vegan, vegetarian, a lot of different diets on there. I know I saw in the comments requests for other diets, which I think we can talk about some of the comments at the end, but just know that we are constantly adding new diets. I think the next one that's coming is interstitial cystitis, which is a condition that affects a lot of people around the world. And there are plenty of other ones coming in the pipeline. So the first screen, again, you select your diet. The second screen, you're going to select any top 14-ish food allergies that you follow. One thing that we hear a lot on this page, and this is, again, how the Fig app is still a work in progress and improvement. These are basically asking if you follow or if you have an allergen that would be represented on an allergen statement. So, if you were to have a cinnamon allergy, for example, you're never going to see cinnamon listed on an allergen statement. But you will see fish listed on an allergen statement. You will see celery in certain countries listed on an allergen statement. So if you don't see your allergen on this page, don't worry. You'll be able to select that on the very last page. But here you'll find all the top 9 allergens plus some other ones. Oral allergens, oral allergy syndrome is a big one that a lot of folks react to. Shellfish, tree nuts, of course. And again, it gets very specific. So
help us understand, so it says soy 3 and there's a little arrow down there.
Exactly.
Like, what is it? Can you show us what that?
Exactly. So
there you go. This is the specificity that you were saying, with the cherry example, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, because what we find is all of these communities, if you go on Facebook, you can kind of get a sense of the reality. There are probably 10 or 20,000 people in a soy allergy group. And a lot of them have, of course, been diagnosed by an allergist with a soy allergy, but they have varying levels of reactivity. And so, most people are only going to react to soy. And if you read the note, it's going to say as much here. But there are a lot of people who do react to soy lecithin and to soybean oil. And so if you do react to those, you're given the option to also find foods that don't have those. I'll just say briefly on soy, we're actually working with the soy allergy community right now to really dig even deeper than just ingredients that say soy and soy lecithin and soybean oil, because so many products in the USA are derived from soy, right? They are eggs from chickens that are fed soy, and there are people that react to that. And so for all of these different diets on FIG, we really are trying to work with the communities that are struggling to basically make the diets as accurate as possible for those communities. But yes, Data, to your point, super specific. No matter what the needs are, you can modify those. So that's the allergens page. The third page are other common avoidances that folks often ask us about. A lot of people, because of hypertension, are trying to avoid added salts. You'll see an option basically says I limit added salts or I strongly avoid added salts. In this case, you're not going to see any product on FIG that has added salt if you select this option. We are working to try to make the UI UX, which basically is tech terms for what you see in the screen, as clear as possible about the implications of choosing some of these options. If you marked this and said, I strongly avoid added salts, there are a lot of products that have salt as an ingredient. And so that's going to make those appear as a no-go for you on FIG. So we're still working to improve how people understand the selection of these options impact what they see in terms of the food options for them later on in the app.
But I love how, the nuances we're always saying about the low FODMAP diet in particular, it is nuanced and it is complex. Like, I don't like to say it's hard. It's nuanced and it's complex. And the way you've created FIG allows for this kind of nuanced application of your own FIG profile, which is fantastic. And of course, if you can change it at any time, right? So let's say your doctor has told you to limit sodium, you want to get your blood pressure under control, and then let's say you get to a place where you're good and you can add a little more back, you go back in, you tailor this section of the settings, and you're good to go.
Exactly. And I encourage you to chronically be updating it. Everyone who's finished elimination, redo reintroduction every 6 months. Our triggers change with time. They change with our mental state, our stress levels. Absolutely always be challenging foods again, because the goal of FIG is to enjoy food again. That's why we called it Food is Good, right? Unfortunately, we have some battles with food, but the goal is to expand the palate as much as we can. So some of the other options on this avoidances page, artificial flavors. A lot of folks have to avoid those, unfortunately. Artificial food colorings, you can get very specific. We're just select all of them. Capsaicin is a big trigger for a lot of folks. Common additives that trigger people, you'll find in there. One thing I'll say specifically for FODMAPs, there are folks who react to garlic or onion, but don't necessarily have a FODMAP issue. They're more just having an intolerance to alliums. Now, in reality, they might actually have a FODMAP issue. They just don't know it yet. But if you have selected the low FODMAP diet on FIG, you actually don't want to select this garlic and onion option. We're working again to improve the app to basically confirm with you, if you were to select that you have an additional need. But there's reasons that you wouldn't want to select all those different options, because there's logic that's built in that modifies the recommendations based on the choices you make.
Right. So just to reiterate what you just said, so a FODMAP, the FODMAP in garlic and onions is fructans. So if you have a fructan issue, that's one thing. If you have an allium allergy, even though garlic and onion are alliums, that is different. And It's sort of, and it's like, again, the nuances, it's like the nuances with wheat. You could be gluten sensitive, or you could be reacting to the fructans in the wheat. And those are two different things, which is, people get confused about that all the time. They don't understand how the low FODMAP diet could not be wheat-free or gluten-free. So yes, you could get as specific as possible with the app. And this is great that you're taking us through it.
Yeah, I think one thing we've realized as a team is we tried to build the app to be as customizable as possible. And that's made it very powerful, especially if you understand your very specific dietary needs. But at times, I think that can also be overwhelming if you're new to dietary restrictions. And so we are, again, trying to find the right balance of what's the best way to present this information and have some automated checks in place so that over restriction is not going to occur. Mushrooms, nightshades, sweeteners, legumes, of course, are a big issue. A lot of folks just like to avoid things like stevia. I know a lot of people in my family just hate the taste of different sweeteners. So you can mark those as well. But once you've chosen your options on those first 3 pages, what FIG is then going to do is do some calculations behind the scenes to figure out, based on your choices, which ingredients for you are green, which means you likely can eat them, which ones are red, which means no matter what, you really have to avoid those based on your selections, and which ones are yellow, which may or may not work for you based on the specific ingredient. And if we click into ingredients, you're actually given a list of all those ingredients. And looks like 2,551 ingredients. You can sort them by green, yellow, or red. But here's where you could actually go through and modify them. So if I knew, for example, I know I've mentioned cinnamon a few times. If cinnamon is an issue for me, I can come here and say, you know what? I can't have cinnamon. I'm okay with the artificial cinnamon flavor, but nothing with cinnamon. Or, you know what? Just warn me about it. I want to know if this product has cinnamon. And that's where you can change those ratings. And again, this functionality exists for every single ingredient that's on FIG. And the same with the FODMAP selections that were made. So let's say that you selected the low FODMAP diet, but actually somehow you're okay with garlic. That's probably a bad example because that is one of the worst. But you could actually come on and change garlic to be green. You could say, you know what, I'm okay with garlic. I've reintroduced it and I'm all right with it. Probably the better way if you're doing, reintroduction is actually to go back to that first page and select fructans and say, I don't have an issue with those anymore. And so FIG isn't going to restrict fructans for you.
We did have a specific question about the salt. If you have high blood pressure, just going back to those 2 choices, which is the one that would limit as much as possible, which is the wording.
Yeah.
If you have those choices between limiting it a bit and limiting it the most, which is the wording that you use on those choices? Okay, yeah.
So I limit added salt, and you can click onto the little information thing. Select if you'd like to be warned when a food has added salt.
Look at that, it has descriptions. Perfect.
Yep. And then select if you'd like to completely avoid any food that has added salt. So
perfect.
Maybe I can go ahead and flip into the actual app to explain how the color system works, because I'd like to.
That was really important for people to see. We had that question, and you've already built into the app that the questions can be answered right when you're in the app just by clicking on that section.
Sure. And thank you so much for questions. One thing I'll tell you that's just really humbled me, and I think our entire team, it's really hard to build an app because you kind of know what you're building and you have it in your head, but all of a sudden you have thousands of people coming onto it every day who all have different levels of understanding of how apps work or different backgrounds. And so your questions and your feedback, we actually love that because it helps us realize, oh, that's an opportunity for improvement. And that's, again, going back to this notion, if we can just improve at 1% every day, eventually we'll get to a pretty good place. So that's what we're hopeful for. But if you do make adjustments to this last page, let's say you marked a cinnamon allergy or garlic as green, and you ever want to change that back, you can just tap this revert manual ingredient selections option, and that'll reset all of the individual ingredients that you modified. And so the only thing that will remain are your selections from the first 3 pages, the diets, the top 14 allergens, and those avoidances. So I'm now going to hit complete my FIG. And what that's going to do is then take me, if you were new to the app, it would take you to the grocery page. And what you're going to see on the grocery page are products that likely fit all of those dietary needs that you just selected. So as you scroll down, these are things that I think we just chose a low FODMAP diet. So these are all likely low FODMAP foods. And I had this set to Kroger right now. So you can actually go through and you can choose your specific grocery store or stores. I think there's 100 or so grocery stores right now on the app. We're just in the US, which I know we'll talk about international in a bit. But you can go in and select which grocery stores that you shop at. And what it's going to do is basically show you a list of all of those foods at the grocery stores that you selected that likely fit all of the dietary needs that you selected.
Or of course, you can just use the search bar. So let's search for a
Yep.
product. So let's say you want to know what, I don't know,
We can
yogurt.
look- We can look for like snacks, for example.
Snacks. Okay, go for
And
snacks.
it's just going to start bringing up things that are likely low FODMAP snacks at Kroger.
And you can category.
Yep, exactly. So let's say you wanted to click on category. There's two levels of categories. So the first is like that top tier level, baby food, bakery and bread, baking and cooking beverages. Let's say we went down to, we'll go to snacks, for instance. And then underneath snacks, there are these subcategories here: candy and chocolate, chips, crackers, and pretzels.
Oh, look at that. Awesome.
And so you can actually sort this out and find candies and chocolates that likely fit your needs. Now, I know I sound like a broken record saying it's, a work in progress, but the reason I say this is there are 300 and something thousand food products in our database, and these have to be classified according to these categories. So occasionally you're going to see something that doesn't make sense. And just know that we're working to make sure that it's in the right category, but you can actually help us with that. If you click onto one of these products, I'll click onto the Starburst, for example. Let's say this is actually cat food. And sometimes you might see that. I'm sorry if you do, please don't eat it. It may be low FODMAP, but it may not be tasty. What you can do is actually click the report issue button and let us know what's going on. And we have a team that's addressing probably 3,000 pieces of feedback a week now at this point. And we'll get it responded to within generally 2 to 3 days is how quickly we can action it now.
So I just want to jump in here because this is actually a huge issue. I think there was a point in time, I think you've made inroads in the last several months, but I think there was a point in FIG's presence where a lot of people weren't so sure about the trustworthiness of it because they thought that the products were crowdsourced, that they thought the products got on the app through something like this, where somebody's just sitting at home who's not a medical professional said, hey, this is low FODMAP and you should put this up here. But I just want people to be really clear and understand that you do have input like this, right? This screen here, you can make suggestions for them to look at, but every single item that is in this app, all of those hundreds and thousands of items that are in the app have been reviewed by a medically trained person, a registered dietitian, Monash trained when we're talking about the FODMAP stuff. So that's where the trustworthiness comes in. And as Andrew's saying, I mean, they're constantly reviewing and updating, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, which I'll again just reiterate, use FIG as a guide to point you in the right direction. Always confirm everything, because no matter how hard I work and how hard our team tries, and this goes for any app, there will be mistakes. There will be mistakes, and I would much rather you know that and make sure you're making the best decisions for your own health. Because the worst thing for us is if you were to to actually eat the wrong thing and then all of a sudden you end up with symptoms for a day or two. That's not what we want. But we do want to save you time and stress finding food. And so that's the best way to think about using FIG. But to your point, Day, we take pictures from users and we take feedback from users, but we process all that by a trained team who knows what they're doing in terms of looking for ingredients and allergens, for certifications, etc. I saw someone said Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee is on here. So if you don't find that, let me know, but Hy-Vee should already be on. I want to show you a few more things here just on this main screen. So whenever you click onto a product, what you'll see is basically a list of, you'll see a picture of the product, you'll see the ingredients, you'll see the allergen statement, and you'll see some similar products at the bottom. And so one thing you can do is actually tap on any ingredient to read a note from our dietitians about why that ingredient matches all of those needs that you selected. So I'll click on peanuts here. Peanut is low FODMAP and normal serving sizes. So that's good to go. If you find that you have an issue with peanuts, not a problem. Click onto peanuts, change it to yellow. Let's say I just want to be warned about peanuts. What FIG is going to do now is change every single product with peanuts on the app for you to be yellow. So it's no longer going to show up as green, it's going to show up as yellow. If you realize, actually, I didn't want to do that, just go back and change it to green, then you're good to go again. If you want to find out where you can buy this product, just click on the shop tab. It's going to show you where this food's available. You can click view on site and it's going to take you to that site. And one more thing I wanted to show on this search screen, oftentimes somebody will message us and say, I can't find some of my favorite products, or I can't find a certain product that I'm looking for. Let's say, for example, Oreos, because that's a very common product. Say I search for Oreo. The only thing I see come up is this Pillsbury Vanilla Funfetti Oreo frosting. That does sound fun. We look at it, it looks like it's low FODMAP, which is awesome, but I'm looking for Oreo cookies. You know, you might assume this is not actually on the Fig app, but what you have to really remember is right now, this is set to show you products that likely fit your dietary needs. It's what we call green products. What you would need to do is actually look for yellow or red products that you either need to limit or products that you need to avoid based on what you told us. And that's where you're going to start to see some of the other Oreo options. So if we click into Oreo Thins, for example, we're going to see that retro, this one has high fructose corn syrup. You know, that's why this is being flagged as high FODMAP. You can click in, you can read that note about why it, you know, doesn't match a low FODMAP diet. And again, if you yourself know that I'm okay with high fructose corn syrup, just change that to green or yellow, whatever your preference is. And then Fig's going to remember that and show you products that match accordingly going forward.
Let's we do have another poll, and we do want to get to some questions in about 7 or 8 minutes. So let's see, Robin's going to put up another poll, and it's going to have questions about your needs. So how much time do you spend each month checking how much ingredients? Because I know, I don't even know, I can't even calculate. I don't think I can even calculate how much time I spend. And also we're interested in how often do you eat out at restaurants? And we have something to speak to directly about that. Yes, someone's asking if this is recorded. This is recorded. You will be getting a link for the recording. Oh, wow. Okay. People spend a lot of time.
Ingredient lists are so long, it should
They
be
are.
criminal. But
And so, you
wow.
know, I think that, you know, the thing about using Fig as using the app, and the thing about using the Monash and FODMAP friendly apps as well, is I think when you first come to the diet, I mean, all of this is overwhelming, but as you use the apps, you really start absorbing information. And as you use the apps, your use of the apps gets more fluid. You're just getting to the end result answer to whatever question you're looking for more quickly. It definitely, there's a learning curve to using any of the apps, but once you really get into them and have used them for a while, it gets easier and easier and quicker and quicker.
Exactly. Do you want me to quickly show the scanning data?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So let me just flip it real quickly to, let me flip it to the scanner. So welcome to my desk. That is my keyboard. There we are. I've got some random food products here because I am a founder of Fig and I'm chronically scanning things. So this is how the scanner works. Basically, we see this massive ingredient list. Fig's goal is to very quickly tell me, is there actually a chance that this is low FODMAP or not? So if I just come here and scan this, what it's going to do is very quickly flag that unfortunately this product likely doesn't match your Fig, and it's because it has garlic in it.
Right,
So
and we have the color code, right? So we've been primed. Red is bad, is no. The garlic is highlighted with the color red. It's really easy to see why this product is a no-no.
Exactly. And again, if you were to say, you know what, I'm okay with garlic, just tap it and change it to green, and then Fig's going to say that this product's green for you. The other fun thing on the scanning page is if you scroll down, it's actually going to show you similar products that are actually green for you. So it's looking for other buffalo wing sauces that likely are low FODMAP. So if I tap onto this Steve's and Ed's buffalo wing sauce, looks like this one is low FODMAP. And you can, of course, click the shop button to find out where you can find that sauce. So again, if you're at Kroger and you're trying to find one that works, you can either use the search tab and look for a barbecue sauce, or you can scan a barbecue sauce. And if the one that comes up isn't low FODMAP, then you can just look down at that alternatives list and you can find some options that likely are low FODMAP.
And this is just to let all of you know. So as Andrew was saying, they're a work in progress. They're constantly improving the app. And this is a perfect example. This whole thing about swaps. Well,
Mhm.
I wanted a barbecue sauce and the one I thought I wanted isn't good for me, but here are some swaps. Here are some suggestions. That feature didn't exist day one. This was an example of a feature that they worked on. A lot of tech went into it. It's making our shopping easier, our lives easier. It's expanding our options at the grocery store. So these are the kinds of things that you can look forward to. They're constantly making improvements on the app. Now, restaurants, we have, how often do you eat out at restaurants each month? And the majority of the people say just, 1 or 2 times. But even if it's just 1 or 2 times, I think that we hear a lot from people that eating out at restaurants is possibly the most difficult situation that they face. So show us how FIG can help us with that.
Yep. So I'll just say that whenever I was on my full-fledged FODMAP elimination diet, it was so depressing and isolating because it felt like no one understood. And anytime someone wanted to go out to eat, it just felt like it wasn't worth it because inevitably I'd end up with a reaction or I would do that dance with the waiter or the waitress where I'd tell them the 100 things I can't have and then it would come out and it would have it. So FIG has been working on some early restaurant features, and we've started with chain restaurants for 2 reasons. One is they are everywhere, right? Pretty much everyone in the US is going to have an access to some of these restaurants. And the second thing is they are much more standardized and consistent in the way they do ingredients and allergens and processes. That's a lot easier than doing mom and pop restaurants where ingredients could change on a daily basis. And so that's why you're going to see chain restaurants on FIG. But the way that it works, you'll see just like with grocery stores, I think there are roughly 15 restaurants right now. We are in the process of adding more. It takes a lot of time with our dietitian team to review these and make sure that we've got them correct for every single diet option on FIG. But you can come on here, you can choose which restaurant, let's say Panera Bread. And what it's going to show you are menu items at Panera that likely are low FODMAP. And there's one big distinction here. You'll see this still cut oatmeal is green. And then this scrambled egg and cheese on brioche is green, but it has this big yellow triangle. And that big yellow triangle basically indicates that there's a note. And a note often indicates that you might have to modify something with your order in order to make it low FODMAP. So for example,
could you click into one of those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's say we were looking at this teriyaki chicken and broccoli bowl. FIG is basically going to tell you, you can have this as a low FODMAP option, but without the chicken and the teriyaki sauce. Or this strawberry poppy seed salad, no chicken, no poppy seed dressing. This Greek salad, no onions and no dressing. And so the objective here is if you're going to have to be traveling or you want to go out with friends and family, unfortunately, I can't make Panera have 50 low FODMAP options for you, but sometimes you just want to be able to eat something else that you didn't have to make at home. And just to know what some of your options are is our objective with this restaurants feature. So again, you'll find notes that tell you how to modify it. And those notes exist for all the different diets that you see on FIG. So if you told us that you were low FODMAP and vegan, it's also going to tell you if you're vegan, of course, take the chicken off of the salad as well. So you'll see those notes appear for all the different selections that you choose on the app.
Awesome. Awesome.
I might show one more thing, Dede, real quick, because this is something that's new that's coming, which I'm really excited about. If you set up your FIG profile and you scan something or you search something and you're not sure why it's yellow or red, of course, you can tap the ingredient and see the notes on why it's yellow or red. But one other thing that we've been working on to make it clearer on why something is the way it is, I'm just going to set up a gluten-free, a vegan, and a low FODMAP profile. I'll say quickly on gluten-free, this is, again, just kind of the specificity you can get to. There are people who just try to avoid gluten as a general rule of thumb. There are people who really have to avoid gluten, but they're okay with cross-contamination. And then there are the celiacs and other gluten-related disorders of the world. You cannot have any amount of gluten. So we'll do this one for now. I wanted to show one more thing that we built that I'm pretty excited about. My number one goal, what I work on every day at FIG, it's weird to call it a company because we're not large. We are just 7 people with dietary issues trying to help other people with dietary issues. my goal is to figure out, can you eat this? Can you likely eat this? And this is a big step in that direction. You know, let's say we're looking at a product that is actually red, this Eggo buttermilk waffles. You can click this learn more button now, and it's going to tell you which of the options that you chose in your FIG profile caused this to be red. So in this case, it doesn't work for gluten because it has enriched flour and wheat. Doesn't work for low FODMAP because it's got buttermilk, soybean, and also enriched flour. And then it doesn't work for vegan because of a lot of different reasons. And again, you can click on and read the notes on any of these from our dietitians to actually understand why that may not be vegan. But what you're actually going to start seeing in the next day is certifications and manufacturer claims are coming on the app. And so if this were actually vegan certified, that's going to show up. It'll be green for you. If it's FODMAP certified, we already have those in the app, but it's going to be much more prevalent. So you'll see this is a FODMAP certified product. And then there's feedback mechanisms. If we get it wrong, help us correct that through that report issue button so we can make it a better app experience for everyone.
Excellent. So this is a lot of information. I think that, for anyone who hasn't used the FIG app yet, it may seem like a lot, but it really makes sense because you're going to be doing it step by step. You're starting at the beginning, yourself, you're going to be filling out your tolerances. And like we said before, the more you use it, the more it's going to become really intuitive. And you can use it from so many different ways, right? Like you can choose your supermarket, or you could choose a category, or you could just type in what you're looking for. You're looking for yogurt, you're looking for a strawberry jam, whatever it is. So the app is really user-friendly in that it helps you get to the answer for what you're looking for whatever your question is. So I think we have a few minutes for questions. We've been answering a lot as we've gone along. Someone wanted to know if, have you ever thought about adding kosher? And since you're adding, signifiers.
Yep. Exactly. Kosher will be coming soon. We've actually started collecting certification data on kosher. We'll be starting halal very soon too.
Wow.
So we probably have 100,000 products that are flagged kosher already in our back end. So we just have to build that into the front end. I would say that's probably within, my product team would shoot me, but probably within 2 to 3 months that we'll have kosher on there as an option.
That's amazing.
And it'll say which rabbi or certification organization certified it as kosher.
So we just want everyone to know that we discussed, if you came late, there are two ways to use FIG. There's a free aspect, there's a pay aspect. The pay aspect ends up to be about $3 a month. It's very inexpensive. FODMAP every day, there is a discount code that everybody's going to get along with the link to view this again. So certainly take advantage of that. If you already have FIG, you can still use the code for a subscription discount. So all of that is going to be coming in the follow-up emails. So look for that. Let's see, do we have any more questions? Okay, someone says they want to get the app, but it doesn't work through the App Store. Not quite sure what that means.
I'll say briefly that it's possible that person might be outside the US. If you look for the app outside the USA right now, you won't find it on the App Store. I think you will find it on the Google Play Android store. We are actively working to build the functionality to bring it international, and it'll be Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand that are coming first. The reason it takes so long is we just have a certain bar of quality that we have to meet before we feel comfortable releasing it. I just don't morally feel right releasing it until it's ready. So that's why it takes time. And I just want to say thank you for your patience, because I know it's been a long time that we've been working on it. I don't
want to put you on the spot, but I mean, do we think this calendar year that?
Oh yes, it will be this. I can promise you it will be this calendar year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I just want to say too, for everyone who has subscribed to Fig Plus, it really means a lot to me and to our team. Again, I wanted to keep the thing free. What happened was our investors just said, oh, stock market started going down, right? And to find funding in order to survive. Subscribing to Fig Plus is basically, it's an investment in trying to help us make the world that we want to live in, a world where we're not so struggled around food. And so everyone who's part of that, I just genuinely want to say thank you for supporting us in that way. And I know it's not perfect yet, but that's what we're working towards every day. And we're going to do our best not to let you down, but we really do appreciate it.
Well, every time, we've had a relationship with you guys. FODMAP Every Day has had a relationship with you guys at FIG from the beginning. And I have to say that every time we've had a conversation, what always strikes me, Andrew, is your sincerity. You are so authentic and sincere in your understanding of what all of us who have food intolerances are going through, and your sincerity of wanting to help, truly help each and every one of us. It just comes out every time we speak. And I hope everyone else is hearing that. I'm sure they do. And, I think that, going to a pay model, I can understand how really terrifying that must have felt. And, what are people going to think now? But, we all have to put food on the table. And what you've built is incredibly technically sophisticated. Your dedication to accuracy is really what speaks to me, and why we at FODMAP Every Day support you, because that's where we hang our hat, right? Like, we do not promote anything that we do not feel confident in. And you and your team have proven again and again and again that you are approaching this the right way. And, so we thank you. And, everybody that's here, thank you for coming. You are going to be getting emails to view this again. We have the discount codes set up for you. We have people saying, agreed, you're a man of integrity. I couldn't agree more, Rivka. Here's someone says, you're the story.
Yeah.
Your story is
Yeah.
the reason I purchased the app.
I'll just say that, and I know I've said this to you before, Day and Robin, I was 25 years old when I got sick, and I had access to the best doctors in the world, and I had free time, and I knew how to use the internet. It took me 3 years. My life was not really worth, I mean, this sounds dramatic, but my life was so bad compared to how it was before in those 3 years when I didn't know what was going on. But it took me 20 doctors in 3 years and untold amounts of insurance money to get to an answer, and flying to Chicago. And that's where my heart just goes out to people who don't have those resources, because how are you supposed to actually find your relief on the other side? And that's my number one goal, is how do I get other people to the other side of feeling good again? I wish I could tell you I have it 100% figured out. I don't. I'm 80 to 90%, and it comes and goes still. We still don't fully know what's, my issues, but I do know that food matters a lot. It matters a lot. Rest assured, my husband knows this. He's a doctor, and he will never be one of those doctors who says to a patient, I don't think diet matters. He understands. And I think the world's waking up to it. So thank you all for what you're saying.
Well, we're going to be closing in a second. I mean, food matters for our physical health, for our emotional health. We're coming together at the table with friends and family. We want to reiterate what we said at the beginning, which is that all of us here have food intolerances. Some of us have allergies. We want to make sure that everybody is not self-diagnosing, that you're using your medical resources to be accurately diagnosed. And once you do have your picture of what it is that you can eat and might need to steer clear of, the FIG app is a tool that you can use that's really going to help you eat better and just have a better lifestyle, be symptom-free, and be able to enjoy your food. So thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You'll be getting the emails. We have discounts for you for the paid portion of FIG, and we'll see you again at another webinar.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Have a great almost weekend.